Good evening, everybody. My cup of chai. It's Thursday again, and we are back together. Last week, I missed out on telling you all a story, but today I'm going to start with a very important task that Pan has been given. So now Pan is sitting at home, and his teacher gives his mum a message. And the mum looks at Pan and says, "Hey, Pan, I have something for you to do." So Pan looks at mum and says, "Oh, really? All right. Is it something to write?" She says, "No, Pan, you need to think and just get this right." So now Pan is excited, Pan is looking, and mum comes very happily and gives Pan 2 bottles of water. She looks at Pan and says, "Okay, Pan, this is bottle number 1 with the blue lid and bottle number 2 with the green lid. Now, all you have to do is fit all this water into this bottle. How are you going to do it?" And Pan looks like at his mum and says, "But the bottle is already full, Ma." She said, "Yes, but you need to fill this water into this bottle." Now Pan sits down to think. And she says that you have to be really careful that this water doesn't drop on the ground. So Pan thinks again. And then he says, "Now what am I going to do? Maybe I'll pour it into a glass. Maybe I'm thirsty and I will just drink it up. And then I'll try and fit little by little into the bottle." And gradually what he does is he decides that this is one way to do it. And his friend comes and says, "Oh, Pan, you could just turn, the whole bottle into the glass and you could have just not worried about drinking up the water." So Pan said, "Oh, all right." But now Mama is really smart. She came up with another bottle of water. She said, "Now, Pan, you got some technique, right? Now this has to fit into that." And Pan keeps thinking, now what should I do? My tummy full, my glass full, what should I do? So some days when you have to think of what to do, some days when you think of ideas, when you want to fill in a lot into a very small part, then you look for this lovely friend, a person to talk to, who give you ideas. So today we have Rekhi ma'am with us, and a very warm welcome, ma'am. You're on mute, so if you could unmute yourself.
Thank you, Sonia ma'am, and namaskar, everyone. It's beautiful to be with Sonia ma'am on this platform, and let's just chat.
Yes, so today we are going to have this happy chatter. You remember we did these chitter chatter songs. So some days I look for somebody just to chat, somebody who I can share thoughts with. And it's very interesting that both of us as people have never met. You know, we just interacted, and each time we interacted and were looking for this big bottle to fit into this little bottle, our reactions were almost the same.
Agree.
The
Totally.
reason why I thought, just about 2 days back, I had a team of teachers who called me up, and I could see that they were close to tears because they kept asking me, "Ma'am, that what should we do? Because this is there, this is there, this is there, this is there. What to fit in, how much to fit in, how to do it." So I remembered long back, we used to have this lovely experiment that if you have stones and you have little pebbles and if you have sand and if you have water, what are you going to fit in first? Right? So somebody said that you fit in the most important thing first. So the big boulders go in, because later they may not fit in. These are technically correct things which you need to do, right? And then you put in the little pebbles and they will find their way. They'll settle down somewhere. Then you put in the sand. It will go right to the bottom. So I'm going to put in the sand and let me see if it goes right to the bottom. So I can actually shake it up and then my glass is full. But if I put water in this, it will not spill over. It will still find space to go down. So right at the bottom, my water is filling. I remember this so vividly. I've always carried it so closely. And I thought this was a beautiful time to talk and bring this live and ask, ma'am, do you face this, ma'am? You lead such a big team. To start with, if you can just tell the people listening to us, what do you do?
Basically, I'm a human being, Sonia ma'am. So I'll start with that. And I am basically attached to the Balbharti Public Schools, Pan India. I am an advisor there. Basically, I am at the ground level working with my team of teachers. And this is a team of, say, about 160 to 170 teachers. And we are all together in this journey, especially in these extraordinary times. Why? Because the putting in of pebbles so nicely done by you, the bigger ones and then the smaller ones and then the sand coming in and then the water coming in, it had a typically different kind of an perspective before this COVID-19 began. But now things are very different. We know everything. It is within us. We've been dealing and experiencing things over the years as teachers. I will not call myself teachers, please correct me if I'm wrong. We are all facilitators, facilitating that little child who comes to us. Why? Because, first of all, we should realize, if you permit me to say, that those little children who are coming to us and trying to process whatever we give to them are or should be taken as active participants in the journey. Yes, nowhere should they be fed in. They have their mind which is very active, they have their physique which is very active. They want to participate rather than to be told all the while. तो जब हम अपने दिमाग से ये ख्याल निकाल देते हैं कि बस मुझे फीड इन करना है, फीड इन करना है, you just imagine a very small toddler, not even a toddler, an infant who is in the mother's lap. The mother is trying to feed her with a bottle full of milk, and the child doesn't want it. I mean, he doesn't want so much. So what does he do? हाथ से पीछे हटाता है. The same goes with children. They are very active. We are the ones who make them receptive. Rather, we should take our roles to make children active and facilitate them for so many childhood learning processes, age appropriate childhood learning processes. Yes. Why? Because certain things can be taken up later in life, Sonia ma'am,
Yes.
but certain things, if not taken up at the right time in childhood, leave a lot of vacuum related to cognition for the child. Am I right?
I like what you said, the age appropriate learning. So it's very interesting, ma'am. In the last few months, we've had the schools being challenged. We are all aware of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Parents are doing their best, but sometimes programs like this, people like you, me, school teachers, heads, I think it's just to tell all the parents that you go to Google and you Google, say, 30 activities, right? You also can filter them. It's a perfectly fine thing because you have the instinct of the first teacher of the child, the mother.
Absolutely.
But when you do work with the teachers, then the triangle just becomes stronger. Because this teacher is not only working with your individual child, she's working with many children with different needs. So the perspective a school, an organization, somebody like Rekhi ma'am sitting in one place, looking at a review of the whole country and then creating an activity, won't there be a difference in it? That's the
Of
question.
course.
I always ask a parent, they said, oh, no, we can do it on your own. Of course, you are the first teacher of the child. Why can't you do it? But this perspective is also something which I thought if you could also talk about this fact that how, you actually review and understand before you even send out one tiny activity for the children.
See, basically, Sonia ma'am, what happens is that the perspective of school education is now being understood by parents, because so many of my parents have come up with this feedback. ओ मैम आप ऐसे करवाते हैं, इतना मुश्किल है टॉडलर्स को समझाना, हमने तो कभी ऐसा सोचा ही नहीं था. Why? Because now they have become co-facilitators in this
Yeah.
journey. Yes. And I think with me, almost 100% of the parents have realized that nothing can happen in these extraordinary times if we go on filling their brains with things which are not age appropriate, are not being facilitated by the teachers and being co-facilitated. It's a beautiful hand holding. I think कुदरत ने ये चीज ये समा छोटे बच्चों के लिए बनाया है. Why are we thinking all the while? हम ये क्यों नहीं एम्पथाइज कर रहे छोटे बच्चों के साथ कि वो उनकी एज ग्रुप अभी क्या है, 3+4+5+6+,
Yeah.
maybe before going to class 1. I'm
Yeah.
talking of the pre-primary levels. They have their entire life, and keeping our fingers crossed, times will be much better. Yes. Why are we thinking negative all the while कि हम ये भी दे दें, ये भी दे दें, पता नहीं कल को बच्चे समझ पाए ना समझ पाए, हम दे पाए ना. What hurry are we in? We need to adapt to the present situation to make the children adapt to it also. One thing. Plus, this little thing which we say of, forwarding and facilitating for a growing child, that has to be done in a very, it has to be woven in a very beautiful manner. Why? Because see, basically three principles from child development theory: going from simple to complex, going from known to unknown, and going from concrete to abstract. No child will understand that, where is air, because that is a very abstract concept for a growing up child, maybe a pre-primary child or a preschooler. It's a very abstract kind of a concept. So we've got to show them that these leaves are moving. I have a beautiful tree just outside my window. The leaves are moving, the kite is flying. So basically you have to give it in an age appropriate manner, create concrete instances for the child to relate to something abstract which needs to happen here. And then we'll very soon find a change in the child's learning process, in her picking up things from her environment. Why? Because once we take the child, this little girl or this little boy, this little champ or this little princess, to be an active participant, हर बच्चा हम सबका लाडला है, whether it comes to teachers, whether it comes to parents, लेकिन हमारे को उसको एक बेस देना है. And if we give it in a very motivating kind of a manner and stoop down to the child's level of understanding, instead of just injecting in the mind all the while, ये भी तुम्हें नहीं पता, ये भी नहीं आता. Like for example, I take literacy at a very slow pace with my children. It's got to be language first. Because अगर language ठीक से comprehensive way में बच्चे ने absorb कर लिया, तो literacy literate होने में तो कोई समय लगेगा नहीं ना.
Not so much time.
वो तो
Absolutely.
लगेगा नहीं. वो तो हम conceptualize करते चले जाएंगे, एक दूसरे से बात करते चले जाएंगे. It's a very different kind of a situation for the children. They were being told just after their birth, तुमने स्कूल जाना है, तुमने स्कूल. Now where is that
Yeah,
physical
yeah. Now
school?
suddenly, yes, there's no school.
So
Yes.
adaptation to a virtual schooling is a big task. That in itself is a big challenge for a toddler. And to top it all, एक तो वो वर्चुअल हर एक चीज से अडेप्ट कर रहा है अपने आप को, एक समायोजन लेके आ रहा है जो हिंदी में कहलाता है. एंड टू टॉप इट ऑल, वी आर मेकिंग थिंग्स स्पीडली एंड इन अ वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स मैनर. वी आर गिविंग ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन. हम कहते हैं शायद इसने 2 साल में ही आईआईटी ज्वाइन कर लेना है, हम
Oh
उस
my
स्पीड पे
God,
चल रहे हैं.
I think my whole reason of stopping what our processes of what we were doing and talking about introspection is that I have a little board behind me, man.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just quickly stand up and I'll do this process.
Sure.
What we did is on the first day, I fortunately have young people around me. Team from Square Panda is extremely young. My own family has young people. So they gave me this beautiful arrangement. They just said, all right. So everything that comes to your mind, we put here. Okay. And please believe me, ma'am, in from the time that I started the Square Panda sessions, and it's been a year now, exact year, my to list of resources and what I need to keep adding is growing. So other list, so you see this with the visual memory, I need phonemic awareness, sensorial development. balancing healthy minds, number laws, addition, discipline, numeracy, and my this lot, if I have to put and filter it here, these are the most important things. And then what I had told the teachers on the first day is place the most important things here. Then as you internalize each thing, put it into the lower pocket. Then your cycle gets completed. But what I'm also seeing is that this challenge is becoming tougher and tougher for teachers. The lot is going up, the amount of things that children have to learn. And finally, the teacher has 40 minutes online with the children. This is it. And every day we are asking her exactly this. कि पानी खाली करने की तो जगह नहीं दे रहे हैं हम आपको, and we are going to give you another bottle to fill up. So can we imagine what the condition of the teacher on ground is? I mean, we are not even discussing the parent right now. I am looking at the teacher first, and then I'm looking at this little child who is sitting in front of the screen and trying to learn so much. That's why I said we need to introspect and see that tomorrow, now, for example, when the NEP came out, everybody told me, what you're doing about it? And I just smiled and told them that, isn't this what we were already doing? So what else to do about it? So this is also something which I want you to talk about. Suddenly, everybody wants to do everything through a story. So everything is like a sport. So I just wanted to talk about how steadily you grew your systems, because I know from what I hear that you're always at activity based. So from that perspective to what you see around you is what I would like you to talk a bit
Oh,
about.
ma'am, that's so nice of you. But see, मैं best अपनी कोशिश करूँगी to give it to the teachers and my companions who are viewing us on Facebook.
Yeah.
Basically, ma'am, we always think and talk about certain developmental tasks, and we don't go beyond that. If a certain task, whether it is related to numeracy, literacy, and it's just not about numeracy and literacy, there are so many other things: social skills, behavioral patterns, etiquettes, general good pickup of language, which makes a learning journey or a learning experience fuller for the child, to make that child become a good human being. There are so many global causes that can
Yes.
be taken up in age जो आजकल sustainability की हम बात कर रहे हैं, that can be taken up in an age appropriate manner, but those developmental tasks need to be done at that particular phase for which we are planning. और इसके लिए हम सबसे strong रखते हैं अपनी planning for whatever time period we are trying to cover.
Yeah.
So planning is an immense process, needs to be, viewed in a very holistic manner. And then we also tend to forget, all of us as teachers and facilitators, that certain things can be beautifully integrated. हम उसको अलग compartments में क्यों ले? हम कुछ भी number 2 सिखा रहे हैं बच्चों को. Why can't we, integrate it through a story which gives a beautiful exposure to learning of language, at the same time conceptualizes the number 2, and the child is able to comprehend and build up blocks maybe after listening to that story, and says this is block 1 and this is block 2, and becomes a little self-sufficient. Yes. And then there is so much happening around us. हमारी जो real life situations होती हैं, हम उनको अलग क्यों कर देते हैं? For example, the summer months are beautifully meant for drinks. A watermelon drink हम लोग सब लेते हैं, lemon juice. Yes. तो इसको क्यों नहीं हम उसे scientific temperament के साथ integrate कर सकते, that this is a liquid state of matter. है ना? बताने की जरूरत नहीं है. We needn't give such heavy terminology to the children, but then we need to fix it for the child and at least make him conceptualize that this is something which can be put from one tumbler to the other, and we can beautifully, make certain things out of it, which is very tasty. It is actually quenches my thirst, and I'm able to, do a lot of things. Maybe I'm able to share it with my best friend or my sibling, my didi, my bhaiya,
Yeah.
Yes, why not enjoy liquid as a component of matter?
Mm.
Why make the child study when he or she grows up that this is the solid form, this is the gaseous form, and this is the liquid form of matter? और आप शुरू से उसको इंटीग्रेट बच्चे को एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेंट बनाइए ना.
And I
Everything
think
is around us.
I will talk, what I'll stop on is what you said in the beginning of what you started speaking. You said that every time we design things, we have to also look at the time. So this
Absolutely, ma'am.
particular time when we are doing our designs, please keep a realistic timeline in front of all of you.
Absolutely.
I'm so strongly going to talk about because I'm watching suddenly you want to have everything in those 40 minutes. Those children are so boggled. The teachers don't know how to do it. So what was wrong with the pace we were keeping? We were fine. The children were learning. There was a comfortable pace. So when we said reflecting and introspecting if we are on the right track, please remember, I think one part, ma'am, which I'm going to talk about is seeing teachers agitated. If I see agitated teachers, then I know I'm not on the right track.
Absolutely.
Mother agitated कि यार ये कैसे करूंगी मेरे से नहीं होगा I am tired or I have work. Seeing parents agitated, and then who is going to be the most agitated in this whole process?
Of course,
The
the
little.
child, the little one.
So finally, I'm listening to such unrealistic demands from, people saying, add this, add this, add this. And there is an agitation. Initially, in the last year, ma'am, when we started this whole process, there was like a trial and error. But today, we have that year to look back on. Last year,
Mm.
to look back.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But today we have, literally April, say people had started by end April, people had started kind of swimming and saying, let's get it done. So, do you feel looking back in the last year, um, in your perspective, uh, how should schools or how should teachers, how should curriculum developers look at last year for developing this year? Because we don't know what's coming tomorrow. So how would you want us to look back and move forward in the sense that something to, what would be your advice to all of us or your suggestion to all of us?
Sonia ma'am, first of all, if I may say, because you're such an experienced facilitator yourself, we are not adapting ourselves to this extraordinary phase. We are thinking on the terms that this is going to end tomorrow and suddenly the children will be back to school. It is going to take a while. Yes. And that is giving us a reason why we need to smoothen our nerves first. We need to soothe out our nerves first. We need to soothe
Yeah,
ourselves.
important.
And instead of planning the content, कि मैं ये cover करा लूंगी, ये cover करा लूंगी, टिक 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 टिक, enjoy. We should enjoy while forwarding those, and which will give results which are typically related to school learning later when the children get back to school. So we've got to be on a slower pace ourselves, need to
Yes.
plan very carefully, need to feel motivated from within. Yes, this is a tough time. I have to come out of it and bring all my children triumphant with me as far as the learning journey is concerned. Yes, instead of just keeping it as a task कि 11 से 11:40 तक मेरी क्लास है and I need to give this. Yes, we are answerable to the parent community, we are answerable to our own seniors as to what we've given. But if we are doing in a much more smoother manner, much more relaxed manner, and we have done our weaving, integration, and planning very beautifully a night before, nowhere will we lose the battle. Why?
Yeah,
Because
and
और
yes.
मैम इसमें ना हम ये सोच रहे हैं, एक पॉइंट और है, हम वर्चुअल हैं सब बच्चों के साथ, तो एक बच्चा दूसरे बच्चे की मदद नहीं कर रहा, कर रहे हैं, they're doing it. Yes, peer tutoring is happening in a very beautiful, casual manner. When they see that there are 13 others who are with me on screen, there are 8 others, there are 10 others, वो सब भी मेरे साथ है, तो उनका एक कलेक्टिव ग्रुप बन रहा है, एंड दे आर एम्पथाइजिंग ऑन दैट लेवल विद ईच अदर. वी आर नॉट रियलाइजिंग सच थिंग्स. हमें लगता है सोनिया को नहीं दिया, नानू को नहीं दिया, इनको नहीं दिया, उनका रिस्पॉन्स नहीं आया, कल कोई और प्रॉब्लम ना आ जाए, वी मे गेट अ नेगेटिव फीडबैक फ्रॉम समवेयर सेइंग दैट
Yeah,
you didn't pay
yeah,
attention to child A, child B, child C.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, you are, I'm talking about teachers, about facilitators, you are complete, you are full of experience. Have that confidence in yourself. Introspect, relate, plan beautifully, and think of the child who's there on the screen. Instead of, mastering that session, just flow through it.
Oh, I love this. I love this part which you said that don't master the session, flow through it, and that is the whole purpose why we chose this topic today, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much.
See the agitation. I see, ki, oh my God. And also the judging, today she looked at so and so child 4 times. Now, please
Yes,
understand this that any particular teacher has a certain instinct towards children. And what I
absolutely.
loved what you said that when she's paying attention to maybe a Rima, she knows that the rest of them are going to manage because that peer learning is happening. And while she is nurturing Rima, she in some way or the other is also giving indicators to everybody else on how to make it simpler for them.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
this child is needing that extra nurturing. And I really love what you said that we are mistaken if we say peer learning is not happening at this time because peer learning is also happening. It's becoming more and more acceptable. Today, I was watching somebody, they had this music, and the teachers were asking me, how should I make it better? So I said that every digital resource that you're taking and using, try and do a movement by the child. Let them go collect the thing. Let them. So what happens is, like you said, involve the child. Don't just
Absolutely.
download. तो आपने डाउनलोड करा, आप एजिटेट हो गए, फिर आप सिर्फ उसमें भरते जा रहे हैं. सो इफ इट स्टोरीज, एवरीबडी इज डूइंग स्टोरीज. नाउ यू हैव कोडिंग, सडनली यू विल हैव कोडिंग exercises. And what was coding, ma'am? All the sequencing, grouping, one step after the other, going from one to the other was supposed to be the base of coding. And now,
Absolutely.
because we call it coding, the whole concept of what we are doing seems like अरे ये तो कुछ कर ही नहीं रहे थे. हम कर रहे थे, हम सीक्वेंसिंग कर रहे थे, हम वन स्टेप आफ्टर द अदर जा रहे थे, हम मैनूवरेबिलिटी कर रहे थे, हम बच्चों को कहते थे कि लेफ्ट टू राइट, राइट टू लेफ्ट, देन गो टू दिस स्टेप. And suddenly everything is becoming like a stress. So I think what you're saying is so relevant. Calculate your time. This is what you said. Flow through the day and the 40 minutes that you have with the children. Do a little bit of, when you're getting agitated, slow down for that day. Nobody's, and I know you're being judged, but slowly and slowly, everybody is beginning to appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. Please,
It's,
there's a very beautiful word that I use with my teachers back school, and that is trust. Trust your parents and trust your children. They will
oh,
trust you. Why? Because अगर हम वो विश्वास तोड़ देते हैं ना, हमें लगता है ये बच्चा भी जो बैठा है ना स्क्रीन पे, ही बिल्कुल बुद्धू हुआ है, इसको हमारे अपने अप्रोच में कोई बायस नहीं होना चाहिए. वो बायस फिजिकल क्लासरूम में चल जाता था, वर्चुअल में बिल्कुल नहीं चलेगा,
so
बिल्कुल नहीं
control
चलेगा.
your biases
Yes,
also, yes. And
yes, you've got to be
um,
emotionally very mature and
yeah.
take everybody at the equal level, knowing that yes, the child C requires a little more attention, but I will, somehow group up
Yeah.
with the mother and build up that trust in her, and she will definitely look into the matter and counsel the child to be a better responsive child in my next virtual session.
So every time ma'am speaks, she gives us one hint.
नहीं नहीं
She
ऐसा कुछ
started
नहीं.
with a simple thing saying that flow, get the timing right. Don't be very judgmental about a child not responding to one
Absolutely.
or a day. And now she said something very beautiful. If everybody is listening carefully, she says that guide the mother and father to help the child. I think that's perfect. So what are we doing? We are creating that complete triangle. If we have noticed something, don't hesitate. Don't do during the class, but introspect, reflect just a little bit that you are and give a little small call to the parent and say, can you help me out?
Absolutely.
The language
Absolutely.
that you're doing a little more, friendly to them, and they will help you out. I do see that, ma'am, what we do is every week we give the teachers a kind of signature for me. So what you're saying is actually creating a setup and design that works for me. Every time I finish my session with on Thursdays, I sit down for at least a little while and I go through my session myself.
Absolutely. Which
And
is
my
very
family keeps
healthy.
smiling and telling me, oh, look at her, she's just done the session and she's looking at it again. But what it does for me, I'll tell you, is that while you are speaking, I am consolidating
Hmm.
because I have to ask you back a question or I have to get the flow. But when I have finished the program, I am simply absorbing.
Absolutely.
So I see a distinct difference in when I am conducting the session and when I sit back and listen to it. And that's the time, ma'am, I remember everything.
The
So
teacher should also fall into this habit, ma'am. If I'm
of introspect. I see teachers not going back to the sessions. I would go back to my session. There's another very nice concept which I was also going through. Is that you have to always recollect. है ना recap तो करना है. Every time you recap, you have to make it different. And when you have recapped it a couple of times and you're again recapping it, you also have to make it tougher.
go
So
on increasing the complexity and the intensity.
complexity going on. So,
Absolutely.
how complex can that be? But till you sit down and review your programs, till you sit down and reflect on what you did today, can you make it better tomorrow? So, what I would suggest also, ma'am, during this time and when we are talking is a very quick 5 to 6 minutes recap of what you did yesterday and
Bef-
complement it a little more.
Ma'am,
So,
before we get into that, I would like to give my teachers two terms जो कि इफेक्टिव मंत्रास हैं, जो आपने
hmm,
अपने को रिफ्लेक्टिव वे में देखने की बात की. That is what I term is as a mirror image of one's own self. When I look into my mirror, I find myself to be tall, I find myself to be obese, I find myself to be, sloppy with my hair maybe, I find myself to be with a very beautiful dress. जो भी हम शीशे में देखते हैं, मिरर में देखते हैं, वही चीज. That feedback when we collect after completing the session, when we go through it again, that becomes my mirror image for myself and my self concept for myself as a teacher, as a facilitator. So build up on that फॉर द नेक्स्ट सेशन. कभी कभी बीच में एक ग्लांस अपना ले लेना जरूरी होता है. हमेशा हम बच्चों को ग्लांस क्यों करते रहते हैं,
yeah,
खुद को क्यों नहीं करते.
yeah,
एंड facilitators who are more successful in these extraordinary times are the ones, almost everybody is successful, but कहीं पे अगर किसी को थोड़ी glitch लग रही है that I'm less as far as success is concerned, just concentrate on one thing by the name group dynamics.
oh, beautiful.
आपके स्क्रीन पे जो समूह है उसमें क्या चल रहा है, अगर आप उसको समझ लेते हैं, कौन अटेंटिव नहीं रह सकता, कौन हंसता, बहुत बड़ा मजा आता है ये सब कुछ ऑब्जर्व करने में, कौन साइडी से स्माइल देता है, आप हर बच्चे के बिहेवियरल रेpertoire में झांक रहे हैं. यू काइंड ऑफ पीपिंग इन एंड दैट गिव्स यू अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल थिंग एंड यू बिकम अ म्यूजिशियन कि हाँ ठीक है, नेक्स्ट टाइम मैंने इसको थोड़ा सा जगाना है, इसको थोड़ा सा शांत करना है, उसको कहना है आप बोलते क्यों नहीं, आई एम वेटिंग फॉर योर रिस्पॉन्स. और ये जो हर वक्त कुछ करके दिखाता है, इसको थोड़ा पैट ऑन द बैक और देना है. So that kind of a sociogram or that kind of a
Mhm.
group dynamism, you've got to form yourself and you've
Oh,
got to become. और इसकी एक ही टेक्निक है, हम जब एक अच्छे ऑब्जर्वर बन जाते हैं, बच्चों के लिए भी अपने लिए भी, we will get through this tough time and we will be able to produce activities which will be actually age appropriate, क्योंकि हमें पता होगा हमारे ग्रुप को किस चीज की जरूरत है, हमारे ग्रुप में कितनी हिट्रोजेनिटी है, कौन सा बच्चा बिल्कुल नहीं सीख पा रहा, कौन सा बच्चा बहुत कुछ सीख पा रहा है. तो मुझे एक मीडियोकर लेवल एक्टिविटी करानी है जिससे जो बहुत कुछ सीख पा रहा है वो बोर ना हो, और जो कम सीख पा रहा है उसके लिए कुछ एक जबरदस्त काइंड ऑफ स्टिमुलेशन हो टू कम टू माय नेक्स्ट क्लास. And
Oh
early
wow.
next morning, the child says at 8 o'clock, Mama, it's time for me to join ma'am's class. So please kindly switch on the system. So that kind of a thing.
Oh my God, this is so beautiful.
No, I'm not at all, please.
Like
I'm just trying to help my
it's like,
teachers.
yeah, so it's like telling us that be a musician, and that's what ma'am is saying, that get your keys so beautiful. And I love the word group dynamics. Ma'am, I always feel that each time I talk to somebody, I actually have started in the last maybe almost 45, 50 weeks. I have filled in. I don't write too many notes. I'm basically not a note maker,
Even I'm not.
but I have got this little booklet where I write like a key takeaway from that person. And today, truly speaking, this group dynamics is going to be my takeaway, because मुझे इतना खूबसूरत लगा ये ग्रुप डायनेमिक्स कि आई एम लुकिंग एट अ स्क्रीन एंड आई एम नॉट वरीड अबाउट उस बच्चे ने क्या सीखा. आई एम लुकिंग एट द डायनेमिक्स ऑफ द चाइल्ड. इज द चाइल्ड रिस्पॉन्डिंग? इज द चाइल्ड रिस्पॉन्डिंग टू मच? Is that the child need nurturing? So we have these assessment things which says the child exceeds expectations, meets
Absolutely.
expectations, moving towards expectation, needs nurturing and care. And you have gone even beyond that, which is actually telling us that, my God, you can actually make one activity and look at the dynamics on your screen. I think that's my takeaway for today.
Oh, please, ma'am. Thank you so much. Because this time, this phase is nowhere giving us any kind of right to be
And
judgmental towards
yeah,
preschoolers. Not at all. We should leave
it
our
also,
biases behind. We should not be judgmental. See, they've not entered school even once, especially
yeah,
this batch, which is, the
yes,
new entrance to our school this year.
yeah. They've
तब
never
आए वो
seen
school.
school.
They've never seen school. So how can you judge a little baby just because he's not responding at that particular moment?
Yeah,
Maybe he's in some trance, thinking of Papa or thinking of Dadu or thinking of Nani, whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So I mean, just let them be. Just let them
yeah,
be, and you
yeah.
kind of lure them into learning.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, this is also something which I think all of us must carry back. Remember, as an organization of, I think they have cancelled examination patterns in
Yes, ma'am.
schools, even for senior classes. Of course, the 10th is a very recent, discussion that we've just had. But I get people, I am watching assessment becoming a big deal.
Oh,
Oh my God,
yes,
it's like,
absolutely.
how are we going to assess these children? And I'm actually listening to so many conversations on assessment that it's actually beginning to bother me now. I would want you to give us your perspective. ये assessment कैसे करें, क्या करें,
I'm
क्या
to give
करें?
my perspective. I'm not a specialist to such an extent, but I would just like to conclude in a couple of sentences. We've got to be very continuous with our assessment. Basically, it's got to follow observation and a collection of anecdotes that are happening on screen. Remember, the teacher should remember to record each and every anecdote. She should take it up and kind of cultivate her sense of observing everything more fruitfully and in a more positive manner. And also, when we call the assessment to be continuous, it's got to be really continuous. Teachers को अपने notes बनाने की आदत डालनी पड़ेगी. See why? Because we are all used to those reprimands and those report cards, each one of us. Quarter के end में report card घर नहीं गई, we are answerable to the parent community saying कि आपने हमें बताया ही नहीं. And they are right also. They are right because they need to know. So it's always better to increase the frequency of relating, creating a connect with parents rather than, being judgmental and giving a little assessment towards the end of each quarter. Build up that trust, build up that connect. Let the parent know where the child is, what should be done to, kind of brighten up the personality, the whole child in herself.
Oh, so do we have, I also want to ask you, I'm watching people saying that, okay, today 9 children will be assessed on reading skills. Or, so it's like a proper marking system that a couple of schools are doing. Should we really be doing something?
No, not according to me. I'm
Not
just
at all.
not in favor of this. Not at
While
all.
I'm doing a reading, I can observe that does this child find the reading comfortable? Can the child read
Absolutely.
these 5 words? So I think just noting that down, and teachers, according to me, we talk about the AI, ma'am, where you can actually, gather information and process it. I think teachers have an inherent sense of AI in them.
एब्सोल्युटली नहीं, और पता है क्या है मैम, हम राइटफुल हो जाते हैं ना. मैंने बेबी बी को ऑब्जर्व किया. आई एम राइटफुल ऑफ पासिंग अ जजमेंट बिकॉज आई एम अ टीचर. नो, we needn't think that way. I'm just a facilitator trying to help the child through these tough times, and in that process, let me find out and then correlate, or rather co-facilitate with the parent community to make the child come up beautifully with certain achievements, and
I
those kinds of achievements which are self reinforcing for the children. मैंने आज ये भी सीख लिया, मैंने आज ये भी सीख लिया, मैंने
Yeah.
आज ये भी सीख लिया. हर जगह हमें प्रेज की जरूरत है.
So keep the timing. Keep it in mind that there's only certain amount of time. Keep it in mind that
Yes ma'am.
you have to flow and not just finish a session. Keep it in mind to reflect post a session, and what ma'am said, that get the group dynamics right, observe the children, make little notes so that you know that this amount of these children are, and you can make them little informally also, you don't have to have exact
Absolutely.
uh,
Yes.
you don't have to
Absolutely.
have
And cultivate
yeah,
your observational skill.
skills.
Cultivate your
It's so, yeah.
observational skills, and always take a good mirror image of yourself. Try and analyze it. Where am I going wrong?
And
What
yes,
can
and
I do
another
better?
beautiful thing that ma'am said, when you do mirror imaging, also look for this group dynamics within teachers. I think that's something which I would
Absolutely.
very strongly also suggest. कि आप सब एक साथ हैं, you can enter and you can, and don't feel very offended when
हाँ.
somebody makes it easier for you. So I always used to ask people, are you a copycat? मुझे, I remember going one place and asking them, are you a copycat? तो मुझे उन्होंने, it was a school, village next to Delhi, a little ahead, and he told me, he said, madam, ये तो आपकी शहरी भाषा है, हम इसको गुणों का आदान प्रदान कहते हैं.
Very good. Excellent.
मैं ले
Excellent.
लेता हूँ और अपने गुण आपको दे
आपको दे
देता हूँ.
देता हूँ.
So if
That is how
it's
it goes.
working better for one, do
हाँ.
reflect. So today, like I said, we have these little posters we keep giving you. And Rekhi ma'am, this is a small A to Z. I'm going to send this to you as well.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Have an action plan, blend and digital and hands-on, consolidate, design with detail, engage, be flexible, be independent, join the dots, plan ahead, question and learn, reflect and make little notes. And at the bottom, we just say a signature for me. So this is when we ask teachers to download it. We just put in one set. Teachers can do their own. And what we do, we try and do at the end of each week is we create these little activity sheets for the teacher.
How nice. How
Two,
nice.
three things happen, ma'am, is that these become like our training to ourselves, and then these become our tools to facilitate other people.
Absolutely, ma'am.
So this
Absolutely.
is how we, so I will send this across to you.
Sure, ma'am.
And for the coming week, we like each person who has come makes a step for the next week happen for us, ma'am.
Okay.
So each little step, and Sejal, what she does is so beautifully, just as the week is getting over, she tells us what we are going to do the next week. So talked about self-reflection. The next week is going to be optimizing every resource you have and setting up of your activity centers around you to help your children. So I think that's
Nice.
going to go. We are going to go with the Reiki ma'am's thought process, going to reflect, think. Please slow down a little bit. Is that what we will tell
Yes,
everybody?
absolutely. Absolutely, ma'am. You're absolutely right.
And
Thank you so much for getting me
thank
in.
you.
This was a lovely experience. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much
Namaskar.
and very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, and
Namaskar.
see you all next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Square, square, panda.